Hey, Cam.
Yes, Don.
Do you ever think about how crammed your trailer is when you go race?
Dude, all the time. Race cars, golf carts, jets, Power Wheels, and all of his toys, his little dirt bikes, his strider bikes, all that stuff. I'm crammed. But I'm sure everybody in motorsports is feeling the same way.
Well, now our audience has someone to call. They need to call Lance at lbtrailers.com. Lance is carrying over 70 motorsports haulers in stock, options from top to bottom. We always talk about looking the part in motorsports, traveling up and down the road and at the track. Now you can look the part with LB Trailer Sales. Go to online to lbtrailers.com or stop by Facebook at LB Trailer Sales. You have a friend in the trailer business, and make sure to tell them that Racers and Rental Cars sent you.
Let's put it up for the weekend warriors.
It's the Racers and Rental Cars podcast with your host, Top Fuel Cam, Cameron Foray, and his co-host, Mr. Top Sportsman, Don O'Neill.
Keep on till they can't ignore you. Put it up for the weekend warriors.
Thank you for downloading today's episode of the Racers and Rental Cars podcast, brought to you in part by MotionRaceworks.com. Stop by Motion Raceworks for all your high-performance needs. If you need to go fast, visit MotionRaceworks.com today.
What's up, West Coast Cam?
Hello, Don.
Dude, it seems like we've been doing this all day.
I know, it kind of does. Yeah, we're like on episode 900.
It seems like it, but none is more important than this episode right here, because with everything that's going on with the corona, the Rona, the virus, the COVID-19, the vid-19, and all the other hashtags that I have seen in the last 4 weeks, that I still don't understand how the follow adder is taking care of all that. But nonetheless, this one is going to be about iRacing, my friend. iRacing, because we've talked about it in the past. We had to do the smart thing and get an expert, because neither one of us, you definitely included.
I don't even have an Xbox.
Well, your ass fried a MacBook like week 6 in this deal, and I've had to run all of the technical side over here, and then you think it gives you room to make fun of me and call me technical difficulty Don, which that's fine.
TD Don.
I'm telling you, hashtag TD Don, we can get that done.
Well, here it is. I since it's the iRacing special, I've got my Rona in the bottle form, and I'm ready to listen. I'm excited. All I have to say is this episode is probably going to cost me some cash.
Well, if your marketing skills are any good, maybe you can get it funded. I have no idea. Nonetheless,
I mean, maybe JR and Sean can do that kind of stuff, but I definitely can't.
I think they got TRD over there. I mean, I will give it to Sean and JR. They both had their Mac tools out, while they were assembling their sim rigs. So that was good for content. Way to go.
Hell yeah, they did. That was cool.
Way to go for Mac Tools. But no, folks, we're bringing in on the hot mic right there on the iRacing expert. Some of you may recognize his name, but maybe not
and
for the
voice.
And voice, yes, but maybe not for the reason why we've got him on the show today. We're bringing in Mr. Jason Galvin, NHRA announcer and extraordinaire of the iRacing venues. Mr.
Wow.
Galvin, how are you doing?
Wow, extraordinaire, man. That's some heavy pressure you two just put on me right there. I don't know if I'm ready for this now.
Well, we're looking at, we say pressure.
I'm just interested in seeing if it works with Super Nintendo. So,
no. Quick episode, guys. Thanks for having me.
Damn
it. Let me know when the check will be here.
Yeah. Thanks to Motion Raceworks and LB Trailers for being a part of tonight's episode. And please send all your customer comments to hatemail at racersandrentalcars.com. And don't forget to buy a t-shirt. We'll see you next week. No, Mr. Galvin, thank you for taking some time out of your extremely open schedule based on the fact that we're not racing. So Sorry for that. Trust me, between Cam, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Cam, out of the three of us, has the most open schedule out of any of us because because he's figured out that he has time to play Flip Cup on his iPhone. Instead of freaking doing work for the podcast.
There's an app for that. That's a dumb question, but there's an app for that.
Oh yeah, there's an app for that.
No, it's on iTunes, man. I'm telling you.
See,
can we play Heads Up? Should I download it right now?
Yes. No, you don't even have to download it. It's in go on the little extra icons.
Okay.
And it's called Cup Pong.
Okay.
Cup.
Oh yeah. No, I played Cup Pong.
Yeah. See, I'm over here just trying to scroll through my Rolodex to see if I'm open, and yeah, I'm open.
Yeah, you're open. I heard
eternity.
Yeah, whenever this ends. Yep.
Exactly. Well, Jason, Cam and I for the past few weeks have been talking and we really have. We have made mention of it week after week. And I'll tell you, I think I brought it to Cam's attention first and foremost after PRI this year. I sat in on one of the seminars. Alex Striller actually had Jim Beaver and a few other Matt Martelli, who have both been guests on the podcast, had them on a panel for marketing and motorsports. And they had an individual in there that's part of Team Red Bull, and he was involved in iRacing. And they started throwing around having the opportunity to make, six-figure checks, purses, and so forth. And it's in iRacing, the sim racing world. And I'm sitting in the audience with my wife, and I'm like, I turned and looked at her and I went, oh, we got to get into this.
You're like, duh. What?
Exactly.
Money.
Yes. And we went to dinner that same night, and I told my owner, I'm like, we've got to get involved in sim racing. And I've just steadily been doing research, but I will tell you that where I got hung up at is the equipment and what level of equipment and the cost investment of the equipment to be competitive, to be out here. And so I appreciate you reaching out to me after you saw my post about, trying to simplify a lot of these questions and concerns that us drag racers, right? Mainly because the circle track guys
have it on there, right?
Right. Yeah. We don't have drag racing for the sim world, but these iRacing guys exactly.
Did you see that though? I saw it on, I don't know, the Capital Sports Report thing or whatever. Somebody posted today, and it was like, iRacing, are you going to have drag racing? And they're like, no. Next question.
Yes.
Like, wow.
Yeah. No, we're totally going to have to figure that out. We have to get somebody involved.
Maybe Jason's got the inside track on that.
So
there's a few people knocking on doors.
There you go.
It's a ways away, but there's a few people, Well, it's not like there's a deal or anything, but there's some people knocking on doors.
Well, Jason, we typically let people just take off and run their elevator pitch, and let's just start this as a conversation, because I think it's something that our listeners want to know, starting out, because it is a big thing because we're not racing right now.
Right.
So just give us your pitch and then take off and educate us a little bit about the iRacing world.
Yeah, I mean, look, iRacing is as long as you're not, streaming and, not cognizant of the words that are coming out of your mouth, it's an incredibly valuable asset to a lot of people, and it's interesting. I'll touch on, for as big of a story as the Kyle Larson deal has become recently. It's easy to forget that not even 2 weeks ago, Bubba Wallace also lost a real life sponsor over an incident in iRacing and the way that he handled it after on social media. He didn't lose it because of something he did in iRacing. He lost it because after, he went after people on social media who were accusing him of, being a quitter and a poor sport and whatnot. And that didn't sit well with the sponsors. So, I guess that's just kind of a life lesson of if you're, a professional athlete, as race car drivers are. And this applies for both of you really, as people who make money in the sport driving cars. But if you're going to represent a company, then if the mic is on, then you better be cognizant of what you're saying, But that stuff aside. Yeah, I hope, right? I don't check. That stuff aside, it is an incredibly invaluable tool that race fans and drivers now have at their fingertips. And, not even 10 years ago, 11 years ago, in order to get real legitimate simulator experience, you had to drive for a factory team that had a big, expensive simulator. And there was a game, NASCAR Racing 2003 season. It was the last true NASCAR sim on the computer before console gaming took off, and Electronic Arts, which is like the Madden video games, bought the NASCAR license and made it console only. And then they made a really terrible computer. It was a game, right? It's a big difference, game versus sim. And a lot of people struggle with that and don't understand why sim racers get, kind of so bent up over the difference between game versus sim, right? So the Electronic Arts games were games. You raced against the computer. You could race against people online, but you still had computer cars. If you ran smack into the door of somebody, it kind of spun them out. You're at Daytona in a NASCAR, you hit the wall at 200 miles an hour, turn around, pull a gear like Days of Thunder, and off you go. That's not realistic. NASCAR Racing 2003 was the last of a run of sims from a company called Papyrus that went out of business, and Sierra was another company in there that worked with them that went out of business eventually when they lost the NASCAR license, which was of no fault of their own. That they created sims. So yeah, you could race the computer and you could set the settings to do just what I talked about. But you could also set it to where the only other people on the track were people you raced online. And we're talking 2002, 2003. Like, we're in the infancy of internet gaming at this point.
Isn't that when like the AOL lightning bolt was going across?
I mean, literally, I was racing on dial-up internet with my keyboard as my steering wheel and throttle and brake back then.
Wow.
But guys like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Martin Truex, who were still super young in their early 20s, were racing. They had a league called Dirty Mo Posse, DMP. It's been on their like Cup and Xfinity Nationwide back then, Busch Series cars. Over the years, and like TJ Majors, who is a spotter, and I got to check now, but I want to say he's Joey Logano's spotter now.
Yeah, spots for Joey.
And one point was Dale Jr.'s spotter.
Oh.
Dale Jr. found TJ Majors in that Dirty Mo Posse Racing League on NASCAR Racing 03. They raced against each other. He liked how he raced. He had him spot for him a couple times in races online and went, I kind of like you. You want to come spot for me in real life? And TJ Majors was like, this is like a real life, proposition. So I mean, sim racing has roots that go back a long, long time before iRacing and the last couple of years and whatnot. But until iRacing came along, so Papyrus and Sierra went out of business. But there was a market for that product, and John Henry, who owns the Boston Red Sox and is a investor in Roush Fenway Racing with Jack Roush and NASCAR, came along. And iRacing is a company that's based up out of the Northeast and in the Boston area and the New England area. And John Henry, obviously being from up there, it was an avid sim racing fan, it turns out. He came in and kind of played Shark Tank and invested a bunch of cash into the group that had produced the NASCAR Racing 03 series. They were smart enough to keep the rights to the code for the sim. So they had a base already to work off of. John Henry gave them the cash to be able to invest in new technology, to buy licenses for other cars and other tracks. And they built what turned into iRacing. And it launched in 2008. At the time, I was in my infancy as an announcer. I was fresh out of high school announcing at Irwindale Speedway. And Irwindale Speedway was one of, I want to call it a dozen tracks that came out with iRacing when it was released, road courses and asphalt tracks. Dirt is a very new revelation. Most people don't realize that because they're new to iRacing, but dirt has only been around for like 3 or 4 years now, dirt style racing. It was only asphalt stuff before that. And the iRacing deal, I remember when they came to tracks and they were looking for tracks to, become partners with them was an exciting deal for me back then as a young, I was just out of high school. I really liked racing. I was never in a spot growing up where I could race physically myself, but always wanted to. And it provided an opportunity to race at the track that I announce at every week. 30 weeks out of the year, I'm announcing super late models and legend cars. And then I can go home and do it, against my buddies, And so it took off real big for us then because a bunch of us, it's 15 or 20 of us from Irwindale who went and set up accounts and but bought the equipment. And at the time, the equipment was very rudimentary. You didn't need a lot in 2008 to be competitive on iRacing like you do now. There was no professional iRacers in 2008, 2009. And we had fun with it. But it's been fun, for me since I've been in since, the ground floor inception, literally week 2 of iRacing being public. It's been fun for me to watch this, kind of gradual succession and growth of iRacing.
Especially you being at the the ground floor, like that's cool.
Yeah, and then the last month has just been insane, and believe me, there's plenty of hardcore devoted old school iRacers.
Are they just hating it?
There's plenty of them who don't like it because and I've really honestly tried to keep a positive attitude and be helpful with some of the Facebook groups and online forums and stuff, because to me, I look at it just like I look at the sport that we love in NHRA, right? And if I have an opportunity to introduce somebody new to it and help grow, that can only be a good thing, right? And we talked about, right? We want drag racing and iRacing, right? Well, what's a good way to get drag racing in there? Have them be cash flush enough to say, okay, we can hire more people to work on creating drag racing or whatever sport. Pick your style of sport that might not be in there, right? So to me, I see more people as a really amazing positive thing. And I know a lot of people that are, of that mindset and trying to help as well. But there's certainly been, I've been in plenty of races the last couple of weeks where, iRacing, when you join and we can get into the different types of racing you can do, but, you can run league races. You can run what they call hosted races, which is literally like I could just go jump on the rig right now, pick a car in a track, fire up a session, make it password protected or open to the public and anybody can join. Right. And then there's what they call official races, which is how their license system works. And they run on a set schedule. The cars, they run the same track every week and they run 12-week seasons and there's championships and awards and stuff. And, I've been in plenty of official races where they rank you based on a metric called your I rating, which is basically your skill level at that particular discipline. And I've been in plenty of races where my I rating before would have had me as like the 14th or 15th car in what they call the top split. So the highest strength race. Mm-hmm. And I'm now like, I'm the number 1 car and the number 22 car, I'll go look up after the race. And it's like, oh, I've been a member since 6 hours ago.
So that's, yeah. Okay.
And that frustrates some people because, iRacing, it is where I go back to the difference between a game and a sim, right? It is real racing. Yes, it is fake cars. It is on a computer. If I crash somebody and they barrel roll into the catch fence, nobody dies, and it does not cost me tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix the race cars. Absolutely. But there is what they call a sporting code. It's a rule book. It's just like the rule book we all sign as NHRA members. There is a code of discipline. There are things you cannot do. There are things you cannot say. Hence Kyle Larson getting suspended by iRacing for what he said.
So there is a way that you can just get like it's 6 hours, right? This guy just signed up.
Yeah.
Right. And then can he race you or like race Kyle Larson?
It depends. It depends on what races Kyle Larson and I are in, right? Okay. People like Kyle Larson and I, I have the highest level licenses in all 4 disciplines. So there's asphalt oval, asphalt road racing, there's dirt oval and dirt road racing. So, and they're all locked together. It doesn't break down any farther than that. So asphalt oval is everything from legend cars at Irwindale Speedway and Thompson and South Boston to NASCAR Cup cars at Daytona and California Speedway and Texas to Indy cars at Gateway and Motegi and Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is, and a bunch of stuff in between. I mean, a bunch of stuff. You go to iRacing.com, you can see the whole list of everything they have. We could talk about, my favorites and whatnot here and there. You guys can ask questions about them here. But, and then so road course asphalt is, you talk about diversity. Road course asphalt screams diversity. So that's Indy cars on a road course. That's Formula 3. That's Formula 1. That's LMP1 Le Mans style cars. It's Daytona prototype cars. That's BMW GT3 cars. That's Spec Racer Fords that they run at SCCA races at Willow Springs and Virginia Motorsports Park. I mean, it is a vast, diverse group on asphalt road. And there's dirt oval, pretty simple, right? It's basically sprint cars and late models. There's a modified and a street stock, but it's mostly winged and wingless sprint cars and late models. And then there's dirt road, which is the smallest group. And all that is Lucas Oil Series off-road trucks, Pro 2 and Pro 4, and rallycross cars, like what used to be Global Rallycross in the United States. So those are the different breakdowns of them. And then there's license levels in each. So you start as a rookie, and then it's D, C, B, and A. And there's two ways to advance.
For that?
You have to pay for cars and tracks. So your basic subscription, if you go to iRacing.com and sign up, I think they run pretty much year round a 50% off first time memberships. So it ends up being, it's like $60 roughly for your first year. And that comes with a certain amount of tracks. Let me go to iRacing.com and pull up the tracks and cars. So it's enough to get you started, right?
Okay, I'm going to ask a lot of dumb questions.
That's okay.
Because
there's no such thing as a dumb question when you don't know, when you're learning something.
Yeah, because I've never been to be honest, like I've never been a gamer. Like I was joking, like, oh yeah, Super Nintendo. Like literally, like I think I had PlayStation 1 and like that was it. So when I ask like, oh,
well, you're like the Antichrist for a 20-something. You know that, right?
I know. But I'm kids because I'm in my 30s now. It's my mid 30s.
Oh, 30, that's true. Yeah.
35. Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, but like, I mean, I'm thinking like
Don's shaking his head.
Yeah, when I
been drag racing for 35 years.
Yeah. When I first saw this stuff, to be honest with you, like I was like, dude, like I'm no like Gran Turismo. Like not gonna like go argue with some 12-year-old kid on Xbox or something like that. Sure. And then I start to hear like that, which is cool, which is why we're psyched to have you. Cause like, I mean, this is kind of opening me up into like this whole world of like, oh shit, like this is like legit, like, right. So this isn't like Grand Theft Auto kind of
not at all
esque type of thing. So
no, in fact, there's very real consequences to driving like an idiot. Okay. I full disclosure, I have been suspended from the service before, many years ago when I was not at the level that I am now as far as the leagues that I run with, and goes back to kind of, who you represent and what you represent, real sponsorship to play a video game, so to speak, level that I'm at and some of my friends are at now. There were times where, I would retaliate at somebody for wrecking me. Right. And their wreck was very clearly an accident or them just making a bonehead move, and mine was very clearly not. And it resulted in me taking a couple-day break from the service,
So you can't like drive backwards and,
no.
Screw you.
No, that's a good way to get yourself banned forever, and you do not get a refund. It's very clearly in the sporting code. So
gotcha. Okay.
I mean, you can do that in like, if you want to, go create a
buddy mode or whatever.
Yeah, you want to go create a hosted race and have your buddies come in, you can do whatever you want. But in like official scored races, you cannot do that type of stuff. So here, real quick. So you asked about things that it comes with, right? So here's your base subscription to iRacing. You get pretty much every NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and truck car that they've had in the past. So that's not the current year's cars. But you get the truck from a couple years ago, the Xfinity and Cup cars from a couple years ago. You get a Legends car. You get a asphalt street stock that comes with it. And then you get on the road course side of things, you get a Mazda MX-5 Cup car, like the SCCA Series Cup cars. You get a couple of older, like what used to be the Continental Tire sports car series. So like there's the Kia that ran in there. There's a Pontiac Solstice that used to run SCCA stuff way back. Obviously Pontiac's been gone for a while. The Cadillac CTS-V, Continental Tire car is on there. That's a really fun car to drive. There's an old V8 supercar. They have the new ones on there now, much like NASCAR. Supercars came out with a new car a couple years ago, but you get the old one for free right off the bat. You get a couple of open wheel cars, the old Indy cars. So the IR05, which was the Indy car up until 2012, and then the DW12, which was their most recent car until the car that came out 2 years ago. On the dirt side of things, you get a dirt legend and a dirt street stock. So it's kind of like going to your local track and starting new. You get a couple of prototypes. You get the Spec Racer Ford, which is an SCCA car. You get the Radical, which is a really popular car over in Europe as far as road racing goes. And then you get a rallycross car. And that's enough to get you started at the base level of every series in iRacing. And then there's a bunch of tracks that you get too. So all of the rookie level cars and tracks are free stuff. You don't have to buy a car or a track to run for like rookie championships. But as you move up, that's when you got to start buying a car, a couple tracks. And the price definitely adds up for that.
I'll say, how much does that cost?
So one-time fee on cars and tracks, and it's anywhere from $10 to $20 each. And if you buy 3 or 4 of them at once, I don't know the exact, because I own every car and every track. So I get a 30% discount off of anything that comes out from here on out, because I'm what they call a 100% membership club. So I don't know what the discounts are for other stuff, but there are discounts that can be applied if you buy, in bulk, so to speak, as far as cars and tracks go. So there's ways to buy stuff in mass and save some money.
When you buy one of these cars and like, as you get better, like, here's Cameron or Don coming in, like we don't know shit about Shinola, and we come in and I buy all this stuff, and then it's like I'm racing some jalopy versus you. Like, how do you? It is like when you go to like the arcade or whatever, it's like, oh well, I beat this guy, so I get extra points, and I get like, do I get better tires? Like, is that a thing in this or no?
No, but they do have a scoring system. So we talked about licensing and leveling up, right?
Right.
And so there's rookie, and then D, C, B, and A, and then there's a pro license. Okay. And so there's 2 different things that iRacing keeps track of. One thing is called your safety rating. Your safety rating, it has nothing to do with how competitive you are, and has everything to do with your ability to control the race car, to not cause incidents, to not be a menace on the track. There are plenty of times where your safety rating is negatively impacted by other people, and that's just kind of those it is what it is deal, like real racing, right? If you two are going down the drag strip and the guy in the other lane, drives it to the middle of the track and keeps chasing it and comes across and hits you, tough crap. Right. And so there's, a similar kind of thought process here. But so safety rating is something that's tracked, and it's in point levels, and you get a pretty big swing, from it counts in hundreds of points. So, if you're at 2.05 and you have a really good race, then it could bump you up to 2.22. If you have a bad race, it could drop you all the way to like 1.5. And if you fall low enough on a safety rating, it puts you at risk of being demoted in license class, dropping you down to a lower license. And conversely, if you get your safety rating high enough, it promotes you to the next class. So if you get it above 4.0 and you've run at least 4 races in your current license class, then it will bump you up automatically. If you get it above 3.0 and you run at least 4 races, and then at the end of the 12-week season, they will auto promote you. So, and it's fairly easy to build your safety rating up. So safety rating is calculated based on incident points times number of corners completed in a race, right? So if you run a 200 lap race at Daytona, and don't get a single incident point, your safety rating is going to go through the roof. Conversely, if you only run a 20 lap race somewhere and you get 18 incident points, it's going to plummet.
So that's how like Langdon and Rabillas and all that, like these guys are like in these bigger races, right?
So the bigger races that they're running are all like hosted stuff. Now, Mark, I could pull up Sean and like JR. I know Ron Capps is pretty maxed out on his stuff. I think Rabillas is too, but Mark's been doing it for a lot longer than those guys. And there is a path, and a quick path, especially if you're willing to spend the money on cars and tracks up front, to getting right to an A level and being able to run like the cup cars with the big guys and stuff. I mean, there's definitely a quick path to that.
Is it a level playing field when you're?
Excellent question.
When you're like, okay, yeah, I'm the rookie guy, but you've been racing forever.
Excellent question. So
how do I beat you?
in most series, and I shouldn't say most, in probably half the series, there are 2 different options to run. There's an open series and a fixed series. We're talking in the official stuff. And when you run in private stuff, you can set it up however you want. So for instance, I'm looking over here right now, and we'll see, I don't know if I'm on, but we'll we'll turn this so you can see my side monitor on my other computer, but this is the iRacing screen as far as like picking your race and whatnot. And let me just flip the camera around here. You guys can see this, so you see what I'm looking at here. So this is the screen where I would select what race I want to run in. These over here on the left are all the different series. This is the tracks they're at in the sessions, and the green wheel allows me to register for them. So this is the bottom of the list, which is all the A-class stuff. And so here's where you can see, if I come in right here, for instance, this is the NASCAR Cup Series stuff. So this is what they call A-class NASCAR, which is NASCAR Cup cars. They're at Richmond this week, which is where NASCAR should have been in real life. And this is the Open Series, which doesn't race for another hour. And this is the Fixed Setup Series, which is that little gray F, right? Whoop, into the camera. That little gray F. Anywhere you see that gray F, like up here, that's a Fixed Setup Series. So that is a setup provided by iRacing that everybody runs. Okay. Everybody in the field gets the same setup. You cannot adjust anything other than your steering wheel offset, which they allow you to do because everybody has different types of wheels and therefore the settings are a little different, and brake bias, how much brake pressure, is applied when you're on the brakes. And again, they allow you to do that because everybody has different brake setups as well. And so some setups call for really heavy bias and some call for really light bias. So that's the way that you can kind of jump in if you're not mechanically savvy, you don't know anything about setting up a NASCAR Cup car at Richmond, right? Everybody in that race starts with the same setup, the same amount of fuel, 4 tires, and off you go, right? And there's nothing that you can do, to change that. And so at that point, it's all about how good of a driver you are. So you ask, like, can you come in right away and compete with, let's say that you started an account and, we'll give you realistically 6 or 8 weeks here to, build your licenses up and whatnot, buy some cars. Let's say that, you've got the funding to be able to buy everything. You come in and you build your licenses up really quick and you're really good. And you jump into an A fixed race in the premier time slots. And every series has a couple of time slots where they get like the most participation. And those are the races that count for the highest amount of points for iRacing's championships as well. And you jump into one of those and you get into the top split. Like you've elevated your stats enough to somehow get into the top split on that, right?
Right.
You could absolutely, in your first race, be in a race with me, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Will Power, Ron Capps, Mark Rebellis, and like 8 of the best iRacers in the world and win in your first shot if you have mastered that car, that setup, and that track better than all of us. Absolutely. Like there's nothing that's going to hold you back. Now you jump into an open setup race and you are absolutely screwed. Yeah, guaranteed. I mean, unless one of the Pro Series drivers who are competing for, literally tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they have offered you their setup, which they're not doing because they sell those setups for a lot of money after the fact. That is literally like a side business for those guys, is to sell setups after their races are over for the season, because the setups change year to year because the track conditions change and whatnot. So,
dude, that is insane.
Yeah. So unless you're convincing them to, hand you one of those, you are going to get destroyed. Like you would have better luck waiting for your opponent to cross the finish line with a green light and a clean run and hoping that somehow they fail tech than you would jumping into an iRace in an open A or B class and thinking you can compete right away. It just does not happen. And the setups are super technical. I mean, at some point here, we can, I'll move over to my rig, which I left up and running on purpose, and I can load into a car and flip the screen around here and show you guys what it looks like to try to set up one of these cars. Every car is laser scanned by iRacing. That's where I think, again, the difference between a game and a sim, right? So NASCAR has a video game. There's some rallycross video games. IndyCar and NHRA have had them in the past. The video games are computer software people modeling things based off of guesstimates and some feedback and whatnot.
So this is like way more legit.
iRacing
actually drives like a car.
Yes. iRacing laser scans everything. They laser scan the cars. They laser scan the tracks. It takes them several days, sometimes a week plus, to do a track. And then it takes them months to build the track or the car. and they laser scan it, goes back to their offices in New England, and it gets inputted into their system, and then it gets modeled correctly. Every part on the car is modeled correctly, and then all the setup stuff is put in there. I mean, there are some things like it is not 100% authentic, realistic, but I would say that it's in the 90th plus percentile. And to me, there's no sports video game period, Madden, MLB, NBA 2K, NASCAR Heat, that is anywhere close to in the 90th percentile for accuracy on things. And so that's why I say it can be a very valuable tool. It was a very valuable tool for me when I got into racing finally, when I got a professional career going and had an opportunity to jump into, I had not a lot of NHRA people, that, go to national event and announce that, they just know that I announce or, whatever, I'm at a divisional, right? But like, they don't know that I used to drive stock cars. And we had a lot of success really quickly. And I attribute 100% of that to my time in iRacing and what it taught me about racing a race car. It could not prepare me for putting a helmet and a Hans device on, climbing into a modified with a containment seat, having my belts pulled super tight, having somebody scream at me in my ear, being 3 wide with 1,500 people in the stands coming down the front straightaway on the last lap. Like that is not going to, prepare you for that at all. But what it did prepare me for was racing next to people, how to set up a pass, how to be consistent, how to run the same line every lap, how to hit your marks. You're penalized if you don't. It's not a computer game where, if you screw up a corner 3 laps in a row, then the computer feels bad for you and they want you to keep playing and have a positive experience. So suddenly, miraculously, all 38 cars in front of you slow down and, you just got 2 seconds a lap faster when you didn't change anything. Like that doesn't happen in iRacing. You screw up, you screw up. Like that's it. Like if, you spin and hit the wall, your race is over. Like too bad. You spent 2.5 hours running the Indy 500 and you crash on lap 185. Too bad. And it teaches you those things. And it taught me those things. And I think because of the way that it forces you to think like a real race car driver, and because there's the progression system that there is and the point system that there is and the penalties and the enforcement and the sporting code that there is. The first time that I put a helmet on in a real stock car, I finished second at a half-mile high banked track in a modified. I had to pass cars, and never in my life ever would I have thought that I would have been capable of that. But I, honest to God, put a helmet on the first time, went out there in practice. The car owner trusted me and said, run it as hard as you think that you can run it. And by my 5th lap, I was running laps that would have qualified me in the middle of the field. And that's because I got in the car, pulled up onto the track, and everything looked and felt the same to me. My entry points were the same. My throttle pickup points were the same. If the car got loose, it responded the same way. If it got tight, it responded the same way. If somebody passed me, I had that sense of, speed and speed differences, of wreck avoidance, that like you're going to learn wreck avoidance big time. You're running iRacing, right? Like you get a lot of practice in wreck avoidance. That might be its most valuable asset is wreck avoidance. And I honestly, I attribute, I had a badass car and a great crew chief. And I don't got to tell any of you guys, if you don't have good equipment and people know what they're doing, then it'd be the greatest driver in the world. The car's not going anywhere. Right. But so I had equipment to run well. Hi, Cameron. I had equipment to run well, but the ability to be that successful right off the bat came from, I'm literally at the time it was, 6 or 7 years of iRacing 2 or 3 nights a week, and to me, that's crazy that you have something out there that's available to the general public and, that accessible.
Thank you for downloading today's episode of Racers and Rental Cars podcast, brought to you by motionraceworks.com. Stop by motionraceworks.com for all of your high performance needs. If you need to go fast, motionraceworks.com. Hey, Cam.
Yes, Don.
Do you ever think about how crammed your trailer is when you go race?
Dude, all the time. Race cars, golf carts, Jet's Power Wheels, and all of his toys, his little dirt bikes, his strider bikes, all that stuff. I'm crammed. But I'm sure everybody in motorsports is feeling the same way.
Well, now our audience has someone to call. They need to call Lance at lbtrailers.com. Lance is carrying over 70 motorsports haulers in stock, options from top to bottom. We always talk about looking the part in motorsports, traveling up and down the road and at the track. Now you can look the part with LB Trailer Sales. Go to online to lbtrailers.com or stop by Facebook at LB Trailer Sales. You have a friend in the trailer business, and make sure to tell them that Racers and Rental Cars sent you. Let's talk about, because we've talked a lot about the ratings, and Jason, you've done a great job of probably scaring people off right now, making it sound way more difficult than it probably is, because it's, there are certain requirements and so forth to progress and move forward. But
I don't know about you.
Do what?
I'm more intrigued. I'm like,
no.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing to remember. Here's the thing to remember. The ratings and system only apply if you want to compete in the official races for their championships.
Right.
You can jump on, find a league. Here, let me go to the league page and tell you how many leagues exist in iRacing.
I'm sure
so you can jump on
hundreds of
find
thousands.
a league, find a car and tracks and like-minded people, and just have fun.
Right.
There is plenty of that.
It's like going to Test and Tune or fun Friday nights at a local bracket track. You're just going to have fun.
Right. There is plenty of that to go around too.
Okay.
It is not an inclusive environment where it's only for people who want to be super serious, hardcore, over the top. My goal is to be a professional race car driver.
Right.
Does it have that ability? Absolutely. If that's what you want out of the sim, you will get that in droves. But it also has the ability to just go have fun, to jump into there's a testing mode. You can just jump into the car by yourself, any car you own at any track, and just go have fun and mess off all by yourself. You can jump into hosted races. There's 14,924 people online iRacing. And if I open the hosted page, there is at least 150 hosted sessions right now.
Nice.
At least. So there's 150 different opportunities. If I want to go run a Pro 2 truck at Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park in Phoenix, I can. If I want to go run a super late model at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, I can. If I want to go run the BMW M8 GTE car at Laguna Seca right now, I can. And those are races where you could just go have fun. I can run a 410 dirt sprint car at Knoxville right now. I can run a super stock at Talladega. Who the hell wants to do that? I don't know. That sounds crazy, but
right.
I looked at that and went, "Whoa, boy!" See my point? So you can mess around. There's a lot of different things you can do on here as well. It's totally accessible for other people as well.
Well, let's get to the point of having fun. So
yeah,
that you're talking about, because we've kind of put the proverbial cart in front of the horse. We got to get the horse back around in front of the cart. So let's talk to our audience about the fact of what we would need to buy, right? So
sure.
we're not trying to buy $10,000 rigs. We're not, let's say we're not even trying to buy $5,000 rigs. Let's say we want to spend below $3,000. We'd really like to stay around $2,000, but we need to know what the best is, right? And I know just this past week, I saw numerous messages in some of the forums about the fact that people wanted to know how many weeks it was going to be before the prices were going to start coming down on steering wheels and brake pedal kits and so forth, because the price had jumped up because everybody was trying to buy them and everybody was getting involved in sim racing and so forth.
Sure.
So let's start off with something simple. We need a solid buy for a pedal kit. What are we buying?
So my recommendation for beginner iRacers is the Thrustmaster
pen.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, is the Thrustmaster T300 setup, and that's a wheel and pedals, and it comes in a kit, and it's available on Amazon. And my old computer literally just reset, even though I had all these tabs open for you, but it'll take me 2 seconds to look up here, and you can get a T300 from Thrustmaster on Amazon right now for $350 for the entire setup.
Okay, so that takes care of pedals and wheels. All right.
And that's a quality. There's a secondary option out there from Logitech called the G29. And both of these setups work on your Xbox and PlayStation too. So, if you have somebody out there who owns one of those and, they decide that iRacing is not for them, then they have the opportunity to easily transfer it over. Logitech makes a setup called a G29. I prefer the Thrustmaster setup for the sole reason of it is a belt driven setup. So the Logitech setup is gear driven within the wheel, and the Thrustmaster setup is belt driven, which means that all these wheels have force feedback resistance in them. That's kind of how they help you feel the car, right? In a real race car, you feel the car through your ass. In iRacing, you feel it through the steering wheel, unless you spend $50,000 on a motion rig, which we're not going to do. So, in iRacing, all of your feedback comes through the steering wheel and what they call force feedback. And so the wheel gets heavier or harder to turn if the car is tight. It gets really free and starts kind of moving on you if the car is loose, and otherwise it feels pretty stable and has, a decent weight to it. So the Thrustmaster setup is belt driven. That's turning those motors. The Logitech setup, there's nothing wrong with it. I ran a Logitech G27, which was the precursor to what they have now, for 9 years. And it did me very well. I won 100 races with it. I got to the point where I needed to move on to something better, but it's totally a capable setup as well. And both of those setups, you get a steering wheel. It's got buttons on the wheel. You get a 3-pedal setup. You get a brake, a clutch, a gas pedal. And they're both what we call plug and play. So you stick a USB cord into the computer and start your sim, and off you go. It's super simple.
Well, there we go, because that's our next spot. So now we need a computer.
I was saying, do I gotta have a computer for this?
And when it comes to you for computers, Cam, you're struggling to begin with. So nonetheless,
you're in a world of hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. So we need a solid computer. What are we looking to acquire?
Realistically, you are going to probably spend $1,000 bare minimum on a computer. Now, let me say this. You go to iRacing's website and you can click on their minimum system requirements, and it actually has a lot of this stuff. So they have the entry level. This is a great resource, iRacing's website. You go under membership and system requirements, and they list steering wheel and pedal setups. They list game pads and joysticks. Yes, you can use an Xbox controller on iRacing. I do not it will ruin your experience. It's just not worth don't go to Starbucks for 4 weeks and save up the money. It's not worth it at all. It will ruin your experience. There's a minimum system requirements for the computers. And I am here to tell you that the minimum system requirements are that they didn't overshoot. They are the bare minimum system requirements. It's if you want to run a single screen with the graphics dropped way low, it's going to look nothing like what you're watching on Fox Sports 1 and NBC Sports right now. And you could buy a computer for $650 or $700 and do that. But that computer is going to be out of date in 12 months. And you're going to need to spend another $700 or $1,000 to keep up with the way that iRacing every 12 weeks releases what they call a new build, and it's a full update to the sim. They shut it down for 4 or 5 hours on a Tuesday and update everything. And every time they do that, it becomes a little more taxing on older systems, So it's better to spend the $1,000 to $1,500 on the computer up front, as long as you think that you're going to do it for, you're going to give it a real serious effort. Maybe you're not going to be a professional and you're not going to have a $10,000 rig, but you think this is something you can get behind for more than 3 months, right? Then you want to spend that money. Otherwise, you're literally wasting your money. It's no different than, with a race car, right? There are some spots where, you're an underfunded team, and so you can use some used parts, right? But there are some things on a race car that you inherently do not want to use the cheapest part available on, because it's just not worth what it's going to cost you down the road. And that's what a minimum specs $700 computer is. It's something that is going to cause you more problems than it will help you. And so you're, in my opinion, $1,000 to 1,300 deep. And I always tell people, look for deals, right? Like, there's no better time to get into iRacing than holidays, because things go on, Black Friday. I mean, my Lord, you could build a bitchin' setup for half the price on Black Friday. It's amazing. If you're computer savvy, here's the other thing, right? So I'm presuming you've got people who are racers. Maybe they're computer savvy, but they're not build my own computer savvy, right? So if you can build your own computer, you can knock $250 to $300 off of those prices if you're capable of building your own computer and putting it together.
Okay. All right. Let's go. That makes sense. So let's go with computer monitors now. We got to have monitors.
Sure.
And I think you got to have monitors, right?
You don't. So I ran on one. So again, here, I'm going to show you what I'm at my desk, and let me flip it back here. And this is where in fact, I'm going to stand up so you guys can see literally how rudimentary my setup was as recently as a couple of months ago. Okay. So this is my desk in my office, and this is where I've raced since my freshman year at Arizona State University in 2011. And up until last year, I didn't even have this second monitor. I raced on one single monitor. It's a $200 monitor. And that's because I got a good monitor for my only monitor. This is an IKEA desk. Cost me about $40. That's an IKEA chair. I had like I talked about, the G29 wheel and pedal setup. And that's how I raced for many, many years on cheaper computers because I was not running a setup like this, which we can get to in a few minutes. So I was able to run it, for much cheaper than you would expect. And so, you can get a one monitor setup and be plenty competitive and spend $150, $200 on a monitor.
Okay. So what kind of size are we talking about though for the monitor? So
I mean,
we're talking
the
big,
smallest
curved?
you want the smallest you want to go is 24. I always tell, this is a 28. If you're only going to run on one monitor, I say shoot for 32, spend 250 instead of 200 and get a 32 inch, and that's just my take on it. The key with monitors is you want to be a little technical savvy. You want to look for things like refresh rate. So, and response time, right? So you want to have 144 megahertz on the refresh rate, and you want to have a response time of 5 milliseconds or less. So in other words, you want a gaming monitor. You go to Amazon or Newegg or B&H Photo and Video, and you look at monitors, you can sort them by gaming monitors. You do not want your run-of-the-mill Office Depot, Office Max,
right,
$80 monitor,
gotcha.
Because the picture quality won't be good, and it will actually cause lag problems within the game to where you'll turn the wheel and the car will be late on screen turning because the monitor is trying to play catch up to what is actually happening.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So,
and by the way, if you have old TVs sitting around, not too old, but those work. If you have a flat screen HD LED HDR TV, like a 32 inch, and you upgraded your office or your living room or something, those work plenty good on a basic level setup. Plenty good. So if you have one of those sitting around, or you got one in the shop or something you want to hook it up to, you can absolutely use, a middle of the road. I mean, you don't want to go buy one of those new because that's crazy expensive, right? It's, $400 or $500 for, flat screen HD TVs. But if you've got one already, and you're willing to use it to tie it up, it's in your shop or your office or whatever, you could absolutely use your TV and it will be just fine if it's a decent quality TV.
Okay. All right. So now you've already shown us, and we'll tell the audience, you didn't have a gaming seat. You just had a regular office chair there that you sat in.
Yeah.
So now let's say that we want to have a gaming seat. Let's say we want to have a racing seat. But we don't have a rig though. So, I mean, how do we go about that? Is there a mount kit? Is there a certain seat mount kit that we can put our monitors on? Where are we going?
So Playseat is a company that makes a lot of entry level style, gaming seats and setups. They have some things that are, it's not a rig, so to speak, but it has a deal with a chair and a wheel and a pedal mount. Cameron talked about Mark Rebellis, the photographer, NHRA and sports photographer. And I think that's what Mark has, or at least started with, was a play seat setup. And you can get, play seat, they make office chairs and stuff as well. But play seat, you can get, Target, Walmart websites, you can get them online. The play seat Evolution is a pretty entry level setup, and it's $400. There's a thing called the Play Seat Challenge, which looks very uncomfortable to me, and so I probably wouldn't buy it, and it's $280. But you can get something like the Play Seat Evolution for $400. And again, I to me that's overkill unless you're building like a real serious setup. I look at it as I was plenty comfortable running. I raced in Daytona 24-hour races on iRacing. Where we had 5 members on the team and ran the 24 hours of Daytona online, and would be in the car for 4.5 hours at a time with no break, just like in real life. And I did it from this desk in this office chair. And I can't imagine that having the $300 or $400, racing chair setup would be worth it at that point. To me, you might as well spend, that's when I would say just start saving. Like, give it a try with your desk and chair. And if you really, really like it and you get into it and you find out you're good at it and it's something you really want to build something for, do what I did, create a plan, start saving. It'll be totally worth it. Because if you go to that quote unquote middle level of setups, all you're going to do is fuel the fire even more, because you're halfway to what you need. And that's a big waste, right? Like you don't want to be halfway to what you need, so that's kind of my take on that. If I was advising somebody, start from the ground up, it would not be to go get a $300 racing, chair setup deal. It's just not worth it.
All right. So that makes sense. I mean, I bought my first set of golf clubs that played Against Sports for $50, but so it's the try it out program. I got you. All right. So let's talk about headsets. Let's talk about, Mike, do I have to have a microphone? Do I have to have a headset? What?
You don't. You want audio speakers of some sort. You don't have to have a headset. You don't have to have a mic. There are most private leagues, if you want to run a league, do require it for communication purposes. And they use an app called Discord, which is a free app to communicate, off the track and whatnot as well. I have 2, drastically different setups that I can show as examples here on this computer. And I do some iRacing broadcasting. And sometimes I use this headset if I'm over here. And this is a Turtle Beach P12. And it's pretty comfortable, and the sound quality on it is pretty good. And I bought this mic 4 or 5 years ago for maybe $80. And if I look it up right now, I'm going to bet that it's much cheaper than that. And on Amazon, I can get a Turtle Beach P12. They're not really new anymore, but I can get a Turtle Beach Recon 70 for $40.
Nice.
So
okay.
you're $40 for. In fact, that looks like it's significantly more comfortable than even the one I just showed you for $40 on Amazon. So that's a minimal investment for something that I think goes a long way to be able to have the communication abilities in the race car with other drivers and whatnot. To have the headset sound, I think is a big deal as well. And then conversely, if I go over here and grab my setup on the rig, this is a HyperX Alpha Cloud gaming headset, and this is more like the Beats by Dre that looks like you're wearing over there or whatnot. This is a $130 or $140 headset. I feel very fortunate that I race in an IndyCar league that is sponsored by HyperX, and so they hooked all the drivers up this year with those headsets, and
nice.
They are phenomenal. It is the nicest thing. I'm not saying that because they hooked us up. I'm telling you that, they don't hurt my ears. The sound quality is amazing. They're super comfortable. I barely notice that they're on, so, I mean, you can, and there's plenty of other companies out there, I'm not here to pitch one company in particular. There's plenty of companies that make high end $100, $150, $200 headsets that you could buy if you wanted to, but $40 on Amazon if you want a headset, and I highly recommend it.
All right, so my math, I'm kind of hovering over here around $3,000. I don't know. What do you got over there, Cam? Have you been doing math?
I mean,
Right.
I got this chicken scratch here.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty close to that.
I
Okay.
think you can. I think if you have somewhere that you're going to set up already, you have a desk that the wheel will mount to, and you've got a chair you're comfortable in starting in, that you can be ground up. I need a computer and everything for under $2.
I think the biggest thing, like for a guy like me, is the computer part. I mean, like
Right.
I get the whole like, oh, I got to buy a steering wheel and pedals and some shit to do this, but like the computer part is where it's like, oh boy,
Yeah,
And I'm computer savvy, but not when it comes to gaming. Like,
sure, but I really think you can do it, for under $2. And that's finding the right deal on a computer. Getting a computer that doesn't cost you. If you find one that's in the the $1,000 range, and I always point people, Amazon's a great resource. Don't get me wrong. I like Newegg.com, which most people are familiar with in the computer and tech world. I like Newegg if you're gaming computer shopping. They have a lot of really nice pre-built systems that come with good support. There's usually some pretty good deals. They rotate in and out, and right now, on there right now, for instance, I'm looking at a CyberPower PC computer. And if I look over here at the specs real quick, it would run iRacing plenty fine for $970 with free shipping. So, and that computer is something that would last you, for a couple of years. It's not something that you can set up 3 monitors and run the graphics through the roof and stream and, hook up a $2,000 steering wheel to, but if you're talking about what we're talking about, entry level ground floor stuff, there's some quality computers on Newegg for in the $950 to $1,050 range that will do the job for you and will do it, admirably for, a couple of years. If this is the level you're looking to be at.
Can you spell that website? Newegg?
Yeah, Newegg. Newegg. Newegg.com.
Okay.
It is, people get weary of websites they've not heard of. You can certainly, do your research if you're not a tech savvy person, but it is a plenty reputable organization. It's been around a long, long time. I've been buying stuff from them for a decade, in fact, a computer that just popped across my screen right here is an Asus computer, which is a plenty reputable brand. And it's on sale right now for $779. And it would absolutely do the job for you.
Okay.
One monitor setup like we talked about, but which is why I say, I think really you could realistically do this for, $1,500 to $2,000 if you're smart about what you're shopping for.
Okay. All right, so let's say we're at $2,000. Now our audience is not going to be able to see the rig that you're going to have, so we're going to describe it that you're up to now, but we're going to call this like out of reach for most of us. All right, so
pan across that sucker one more time.
Yeah. So let's talk about first off, how much money do we have invested in this rig?
Okay, so I'm going to preface this with saying that I absolutely did not spend all of my own money on this, but I will walk you through retail pricing on all of this stuff. So what I have over here, and we can start with just the chassis. So this is an R-Seat S1 chassis. R-Seat is a company out of, I believe, Belgium that builds racing chassis. In my opinion, it's the best bang for your buck for, like high quality sim chassis. Now, there's a lot of people,
I saw this thing on Instagram.
You might have.
I'm just kidding.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of people that make what they call 80-20 chassis. 80-20 is an aluminum setup. It's kind of like adult Legos. They don't look aesthetically pleasing, but they certainly do the job. And you can get one of those for $800 or $900. This setup that I have here, the R-Seat S1, I have every attachment that it comes with. And the rig plus the triple monitor stand shipped was just short of $2,000. And that's no hardware. We're talking about we basically built We basically built the chassis of a race car for $2,000 in my office. So, and it's got a keyboard tray, and over here it has a shifter mount, and up here is a spot where my headset's hanging right now. And again, I know most people can't see this. I think I have a picture, and if not, I'll put one on before this. Everybody sees this on my Instagram.
If you wouldn't mind, shoot us a photo.
My Instagram's Jason Galvin 42, and I'll tweet them at Jason_Galvin. People can see all this stuff, So right here, this will have at some point a button box right here, just like Don probably has in his Top Sportsman car with ignition and starter switch and rotary dials and buttons. And this will have a little tiny screen that will have my telemetry on it here at some point. Over here is a keyboard and mouse tray that, it swivels out. I can pull it out and move it over and set it up, right in front of me as I'm sitting down. The seat slides back and forth. I can mount it at different angles down here, to how I want to sit. The pedal tray down there also slides in and out. The steering setup right here is completely adjustable, up, down, in, out. So I can pretty much, I have this deal set up how I used to sit in my stock cars. I'm pretty tight to the wheel. My legs are pretty stretched out, and that's what I'm comfortable with. So that's how I have it set up.
We're both sitting here. We're drooling. Our chins are on the ground.
I'm just like,
So tell us if we had to go out so we can tell the audience. Tell the audience what we would have invested for that rig right there.
So just the chassis is, like I said, shipped from Belgium is just short of $2,000. So that's no equipment. So we're not talking about monitors, steering wheel, pedals, computer. We're talking about just a seat and the trays and whatnot. The computer that's down there is a home built computer. My buddy Dustin Wardlow helped me build it, and that computer will haul the mail. It lights up and everything on the side. It's nice.
Good God, it looks like Santa Claus.
It's nice. It's nice. It's nice and pretty. And it will run all three of these monitors at full HD, screaming capacity with the graphics through the roof. That computer has probably $2,400 to $2,500 into it. And again, that's custom built by me and a buddy. So there's no labor. If you want to build that pre-built, you're probably looking closer to $3,000. The monitors are.
So we're at 5, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Right.
For those at home.
The monitors are 2K, 165 hertz, 166 hertz HD monitors. They're MSI monitors. They're, I think, 320 a piece. So you're at 1,000 for the monitors alone. Those are probably going. There's a 27 inches. Those are probably going away. I think we're going to get 32-inch curved monitors here at some point to complete this deal. The shifter that I have is a Thrustmaster aftermarket shifter. This is I think probably the best value on the rig, and one of the best values in all of sim racing. So it's an H pattern shifter. It's got 7 speeds. Pull it up there. It's got 7 speeds in a reverse, so 8 slots. But what's really cool about this shifter is the metal plate here comes off and another one goes on. And then this whole piece rotates 90 degrees and it turns into a sequential shifter as well. Takes like 90 seconds to do. So, and all the parts in it are metal. The casing's plastic on the outside, but this is metal. Everything inside of it's metal. Super sturdy, very reliable. Plugs right into your computer via USB cable. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to set up, and that's about $140 if I recall on Amazon.
So we're creeping towards $7,000.
I think that's the best deal. We haven't
even sent the steering wheel or the pedals yet.
Yeah, I was getting there. So the pedals, we'll save the steering wheel for last here. We talked about the headset. That's a $120 headset. The keyboard and mouse are nothing special. Although this is cool. I didn't know this existed until I bought it. Logitech makes a wireless keyboard that is solar powered, so it doesn't require batteries. It runs off any light. So my light in the ceiling here constantly charges it. So here are my pedals. These are from a company called Fanatec, Fanatec. These are their version 3 inverted pedals. Inverted because, as you see, the clutch and brake. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was flipping the bird, which I've done plenty of times. So the clutch and brake are hanging. They also make ones where they stand up from the bottom. these are what I would call top of the line sportsman equipment. So they make pedals that are $1,500 just for the pedals. HPP
Oh my
and
God.
HPP and Husingveld both build pedal setups that are about $1,500, and all three of those are hydraulically powered pedals. This is not quite to that level. This is a $500 pedal setup here just for the pedals. And again, I know
if you want to step on them, that's going to be another $3,000.
Right. Well, I was just saying, so people at home can't see it, but for you guys, and people can go online and look these up. Again, Fanatic Club Sport inverted pedals here. So the gas pedal, you can, Cameron, you can see, you guys can both see, it's pretty stiff, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm having to put some pressure into that. The clutch pedal, literally, it has some throw. Like, see, I get to the bottom there and it just shoots down, and then it grabs like a real clutch pedal. And the brake, and this is where it gets, when I say top of the line, kind of sportsman kind of pedals, this is what a lot of the Pro Series guys use in iRacing, is these type of pedals. They have what's called a load cell in the brake, and so the brake has pressure, so it moves pretty easy there. But the farther down I push, the more pressure it gets, and I can adjust that strength so that it simulates pushing back on me like a real race car. Now, again, they make $1,500 pedals where it will actually push back on you because it's hydraulically powered. This is kind of simulating that, but it can be a big difference in, how fast you are, especially on road courses, having the right pedal setup for sure. And then, so that's we're $500 or $600 for those pedals. And then the wheel, which, again, this is where I preface, I did not pay for everything on here, and that includes the wheel. This is a Sim Experience AccuForce version 2 wheel. And this is what they call direct drive wheel. So let me see how I can do this here with one hand. And let me get this part through because it's got a quick release on it. Putting the iPad down, popping that back. So there you go. So this is what the wheel hub alone looks like. And as you see, it's got a quick release on it, just like most race cars that you would see. And that's a direct drive setup inside. So down in there is literally like a steering shaft. Think of it as a drive shaft coming off the rear end of a race car.
Wow.
And so you've now, remember how I talked earlier about basic setups and gears versus belt setups?
Right.
So this has neither. This is a motor turning a shaft, a steel shaft. And it is as realistic as you can get without driving a race car. There's nothing more advanced. There's several different companies that make them. You can spend anywhere from $1,100 or $1,200 to $2,000 or $3,000, but you're really getting the same thing. And that's just for that motor right there. So what I love about the Sim Experience setup, I think it's the best value out there. I think this entire setup is $1,299. You can get it on Black Friday for $899 or $999, and it comes with the wheel. Most of these setups don't come with a wheel, so that's another $300 or $400 per wheel. I also have a Formula style wheel, like an IndyCar style wheel, that is on its way from a manufacturer in Poland right now. That's another $400 for that. And this, like I said, it pops on like a real quick release here.
Dude, this thing is legit.
It's got to center itself.
We have to have photos. We gotta share with our audience.
Yeah. Well, here's the extra quick release for the Formula wheel. So. And that deal is, here, just real quick, I'll just do it for audio, for the audio purposes of things here, because I can turn this on and off with an app, because I have it plugged into a smart socket just for the wheel. But you'll hear, watch when I turn it off, and I turn it back on, it will recalibrate, and you'll hear it start up in the kind of the grinding of the gears. And not the gears, but the grinding of the wheels as it calibrates, and you'll see how quick it spins, and I think it's probably going to catch both of you off guard. So here it is.
Jeez.
Hello.
Yeah. So that just did like 4 full rotations in what, a second.
Oh wow.
You know, so that's the real bread and butter of this setup, so to speak. You know, that's where when you start talking about, you know, professional iRacers, that's where that type of equipment, you know, kind of plays a big role in that stuff. And I'm
so we're 10 G's here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's safe to say that this entire setup that I have at retail value is probably a $10,000 setup. Yeah. And that's no motion, you know. I have another deal that you can't see that's mounted to the bottom of the seat called a butt kicker, and it vibrates. It'll make the seat vibrate, you know. So if I hit curbs, it'll vibrate. If I start to spin, I'll feel the chatting of the tires, you know, as the car's breaking free.
Nice.
Wow.
A butt kicker is like
cool.
butt kicker's like $140 or $150, I think. They're a sponsor of the IndyCar series.
That's
the
a
series.
drop in the bucket, $140.
Yeah.
That may very well be the cheapest thing that he showed us.
Yeah, that or the shifter.
Yeah.
That or the shifter.
All right.
Sure.
Well, Jason, you've given our audience the bottom basement, the bracket racing version. Right. And I think we've got the pro organization version there that's sitting in your room.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's probably safe to say that we went step by step over building a stock eliminator car, and then what I have here is more like your top sportsman car behind you there, Doc.
Yeah.
And then there are some people out there who have Cam's top fuel car, and you don't want to know what that costs.
No.
So,
Yeah,
No.
dude, like I said, these things are. I saw some of this stuff on Instagram and I was like croaking like 50 grand. Get out of here.
The motion rigs are, okay. So the wheel I said is a Sim Experience AccuForce, and Sim Experience sells a motion simulator. And I'm on their website here, and so I'll pull it up, and their Stage 4 motion simulator. And I'm not sure if Stage 4 or Stage 1's the bigger one, but I'm just going to click on Stage 4, presuming that it's the bigger one. May even end up being the smaller one for all that we know here. Their Stage 4 simulator is... Oh, no, that's going to be the big one. No, that's the small one. Sorry. That's $6,000 just for motion. And that's the small one. And that's the bottom of the barrel, as far as motion goes. And there's some companies in like North Carolina. I'm trying to think here. SimSeat, I believe, is one of them.
Yeah. That message group gave me a bunch of different sim companies. Yeah.
SimSeat's out of Richmond. Okay, here you go. SimSeat's out of Richmond, and they sell a motion package for $35,475.
That is,
they do take Visa, MasterCard, and Discover.
I bet they do.
Oh, good.
Of which you might need all 3.
Yeah, do they take organs?
Heck yeah. What's the interest rate on the financing options for this?
And they take PayPal, so you get 6 months, 0%.
Yeah,
there we
do
go.
they have Ally Financial as a sponsor? Just saying.
Yeah. Cam, what's 35,000? Is that like a short block for you guys?
Yeah, no shit.
Exactly. That is it. Well, Jason, we appreciate you taking time out and coming on and educating and sharing. Cool. Hopefully we've helped for those that may, like I said, just have the uncertainty aspect of getting into iRacing. But we cannot let you leave our show without hammering you down with the 2 things that we ask all of our guests as they leave. The first one is you get to send one Christmas card to one person in motorsports, alive or dead. It does not matter. Who are you sending it to?
Oh, alive or dead.
Doesn't matter, but you only get one.
Tom McEwen.
Bam. That's awesome.
Tom McEwen made our family's most important moment. It's going to Tom McEwen.
Man, that's a guy that I wouldn't mind just sitting around and listen to talk and tell stories.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Last but not least, you get to send one WTF card to one person in motorsports. Who are you sending it to?
Oh, boy, I guess there's an easy answer to that right now, but I guess historically, we're sending one WTF card to one person in motorsports.
You get to pick one person and send a WTF card.
Man, that's a good one. That's a good one. Boy, I wasn't ready for you to put me on the spot on that one.
Oh, man. Come on.
Yeah. One WTF card to one person in motorsports. Milka Duno.
Who?
Wow. Yeah. Milka Duno. Exactly. Milka Duno. Milka Duno was a ride-buying IndyCar driver who married a rich oil man in Venezuela, I believe it was. And there's a famous video out there of her and Danica Patrick at Mid-Ohio getting into it where Danica lights her up. It's got nothing to do with her being a woman. Lord knows that I'm as supportive as anybody over women driving race cars. But that woman did not deserve to be in a 230-mile-an-hour Indy car at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And why you would have that sort of death wish when you're totally unqualified to do that, I don't know. So I'd probably send it to her. I always felt like she was putting everybody else's life in danger when she was on the racetrack.
Milka Duno.
Cam, you know what Milka Duno is?
No.
See, drag racers, man.
Yeah.
It's because
I do love IndyCar, and I have to apologize. My connection was lost, so I just came in on the tail end of that. But yeah. I'm assuming we're talking about the cards, right?
That was the WTF. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Christmas card was Mongoose because of what he did.
Oh, nice.
For our family and racing, and and the WTF would have been Milka. I had to think about Milka for a while there, for a long time. I had to think about that one there.
I like it.
Well,
I could have sent a WTF to Cam for not being more social media savvy at the World Finals last year, but
the World Finals. Come on now.
Cam has been.
Cam had a chance to get his Twitter verified and everything there, and he let it all slide.
Yes, he did. He was.
Look, I did my best, but
Hold on, I can honestly tell you, his phone went dead, and I was messaging his wife because I'm like, why are we not worldwide right now? I mean, why are we not worldwide?
Yeah,
that was your chance.
I love that trending. Yep, that claim to fame right there.
Yeah. Yep, everybody's got one. Everybody's got one.
That is true.
Oh, that for sure. True. For sure. Well, Jason, thank you for taking some time out of your very open schedule to spend some time with us. Thank you very much. And you're always welcome back. And we get questions and stuff. Let our listeners know where to come find the iRacing expert.
Yeah, sure. You guys come at me on Twitter at Jason_Galvin. Instagram's JasonGalvin42. I have a pretty public Facebook profile and a Facebook page as well. And I'm generally pretty accepting of anybody from the racing world. So I don't mind answering questions at all. I have a website as well, Jason Galvin. Actually, I got like 4 different links that lead to it, but JasonGalvinAnnouncer.com, JasonGalvinBroadcasting.com, JasonGalvinRacing.com. I think all go to the same spot, but you can find me on the website as well, and it's got a link to an email and whatnot.
We're talking about getting verified over here. Listen to this guy. He's got more websites than we know what to do with.
I don't know about I just bought them all in college and kept them.
When you're famous.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but And I certainly, I don't mind answering questions like you guys, like we said earlier. I talked about the seriousness part of it, and that's what drew me in. But I hope that
that's what does too for me.
Yeah, but I hope there's a lot of people out there who maybe were on the fence and are willing to give it a try. Because to me, it's been one of the most gratifying things of my entire life. We didn't talk about my racing on there much, but I race in a league called the Lionheart Racing Series, and LionheartRacingSeries.com is their website. And their races are live broadcasts on the web, and we've got literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of sponsorship between an IndyCar and a classic IndyCar series. Sage Karam races with us, real life IndyCar driver, races in our league. They're using our setups right now in the IndyCar series on NBC Sports. It's a fixed setup league. I stumbled upon them like 6 years ago. They were still kind of growing. And every summer, we all fly to the Midwest and meet up at Iowa at the IndyCar race. Last year, we had like 40 people, and some of my best friends in life have come from that league, and they're people I talk to all day, every day about different things. And to me, that's what's cool about, first off, the society that we live in now, that you have the ability to find some lifelong friends like that. But also what iRacing has brought to me and my life and to my family. And that is literally some of my best friends in the whole world, and a wealth of memories from trips that we've taken to races together and hanging out. So I really, I can't say enough. I hope that if people are out there and they were on the fence, that they look at, maybe finding kind of the bare bones way to at least give it a shot. Because I think that you guys might find that it can be something pretty gratifying and pretty rewarding.
No, that's badass. I'll be over later in the week to, jump in that rig.
Short drive up to 5, 99 to White.
Hell yeah.
I'll see you here.
5. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Gives a shit because we're
Interstate 5.
Yeah.
Interstate 5.
Oh yeah. He calls it the 405. Yeah. The 5.
Yeah, just stay off the 405. Yeah.
Get the F out of here.
hell, I bet you right now it'll probably take me like 40 minutes to get there.
I was going to say, you could be here pretty darn quick. Yeah. Pretty darn quick.
Mission essential letter to go get in the racing sim. Just saying.
Hey, Kern County's not on full lockdown like LA County. So. Oh
God. Well, Jason, thank you very much. I hope that the next time I see you, it's at a racetrack and not on my Skype account.
Yes, sir. Me too.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Cam, it's always cool to get some insight, especially when we're out here trying to be more creative about what goes on in motorsports. And he definitely opened my eyes on a lot of the rankings and the ratings and so forth. The money I knew was there because I was so confused and baffled when I made a comment in a message board. I'm like, what do I need? And oh my God, I was overwhelmed. I was thinking I only needed a couple things and I could get started. And I was like, we got to figure this out.
Yeah, no, he's a super cool guy in general. And it was cool for him to come on and explain a lot of that stuff. So we greatly appreciate him and all of his knowledge. And hopefully we can, paddle him out here one of these days after I cash in all my aluminum cans and sell a few things. But, dude, I do appreciate everybody for coming on, and thank you to Motion Race Works and LB Trailer Sales and Voice America for producing the show, and Brian and JT and everything, and go buy yourself a t-shirt so maybe we can buy a Racers and Rental Cars Simulator at racersandrentalcars.com. So
absolutely.
Thank you guys, we appreciate it. We're bored, we want to go race simulator, so buy a t-shirt, and they might be just on a delayed shipping. We apologize for that because our printer is not working right now. Anyway. See ya.
Later.